I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 19th, 2018. Would you please rise and join me in prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to come here, and we ask for your wisdom and your insight and your knowledge to be poured into us to help us lead our city and our citizens in the roles that they have put us in. We thank you, Father God, for this opportunity. We thank you by faith for the bright and beautiful future for the city of Bethany and all of our citizens. I thank you for bringing Dr. Harris back safe and sound for her travels, and we give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Item 1 is the consent docket A through D. Do I have a motion to approve the consent docket A through D, or do I have anyone on the council that has anything that they would like possibly pulled for further discussion before approving?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Is it something you want to pull so we can approve the consent docket and discuss that afterwards?
It's on the consent docket. I think Mr. Herrick, didn't you last week pull that claim for the 550 truck that we bought? Yes. But the minutes don't reflect that. And so, unless I misread it, but I don't think it's reflected in the minutes.
I don't think it's there either. I'm sorry, it's not there either. We had our city clerk resign, and she notified us on Monday. However, it was effective on Friday. So it did not get in here, but thank you for bringing that to our notice. We'll make note of it, and we'll make sure that we get it on the next agenda.
It's been brought to my attention too, city manager, that there have been times, or people have let me know that the minutes don't always necessarily reflect everything, like who pulls what or does what. And so I don't know if we need to look into how our minutes are put together, or what's actually documented or not. But
Okay, I can
is
do
that, Mr. Moore, is that
Yeah,
something?
we used to record them with a cassette player. Or in Linda both would record them with a cassette player so they could actually transcribe them. Whatever we gotta do.
Yeah.
I'll look into that, how we do that.
Mr. Mayor, we had one other, I think Mr. Steve last meeting pulled the one for Laserfish, if memory serves. And I see a claim on the claims list. Is that for the same one that was pulled, or where are we on that? Just kind of brief me.
It's not the same one? Okay, all right. But at present, we are not paying those unless it's our monthly subscription. At this point, we did pull the 16 gig of memory, and we're not paying for that. At this point, I have scheduled a meeting. I did talk to ImageNet last week, and they are aware that the council would like a report of all that they are doing for us, along with pricing, and so they've agreed to come and give a comprehensive report to council for that. So I'll be getting them scheduled within the next, hopefully, 2 weeks.
Well, we have a claim on our list for $7,483.40. Anybody have any idea what that's for?
Yeah, that has been, we're not paying that. I mean, you've already pulled that. Somehow it got on the agenda, and may I just apologize right now, because it's very obvious that our finance department is not working. And so we are lacking a finance director. We are now lacking a city clerk. We actually are very limited on who has access to a lot of our financials, and in all honesty, It has been since February since we've had a lot of things noted. We're paying the bills and you guys are approving it. However, we are at a great loss, and I am attempting to fill that void with Crawford, that I have contacted and asked if they will supply us with someone that can come in and straighten out our books. And so hopefully we will not have these issues going forward. It's my plan that we do not.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Is it gonna be pulled, or do we need to make a motion to pull it?
It was
I don't
pulled
see it.
last time.
But it's on the claims list this time.
If it's on the
I
plan,
don't
You
see
don't see
it.
it?
It's number 18-29566.
Was that in the general fund budget or the public works budget?
I don't remember which budget it was in. I'm sorry.
how did it get there is the question.
Want that number again?
Okay, Linda doesn't see it on her claims list that she has printed out.
It's 18-29566.
I don't see it either.
Well, just go ahead.
Looking for a motion?
Are you looking at the same agenda?
Well,
Are you
The
looking at the
amended, is it
amended
on the
agenda
amended?
or the original
well,
agenda?
now,
Okay.
that's a good point. And I don't remember if that was the amended one or not. I don't.
Okay,
And I may be mistaken.
right.
Okay. That was on the original then.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is a public hearing item. It's the approval of ordinance number 1957, amending section 159.025 of the Bethany Code of Ordinances. Do I have a motion to approve on reading by title only?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. This ordinance is deleting the subsection C3, which pertains to the requirement of increased interior side yard setbacks for structures with additional stories. If I'm looking at the right thing, I believe it was to make the side setbacks
Would-
5 feet width.
Would you like Danielle, would you come and address this for the mayor, please?
I'm used to having somebody sitting right here that actually reads the.
Correct. Yes, this is an ordinance essentially just deleting one sentence from that little paragraph there, essentially getting rid of the additional side setbacks for additional stories of houses. So the remaining setbacks will be there. This is just to kind of get rid of saying that for any additional story that there's an additional 5-foot setback that's required. This did go through planning and zoning and received a unanimous vote to move forward with this. And we talked with our building inspectors. We also talked to the fire chief. All are in agreement that this would be very a good thing for Bethany, given the substandard lots. And there's no issues at all from the staff level of having this ordinance and changing this ordinance. Staff also did look at other cities of how they're handling it. We looked at Oklahoma City, Dale City, War Acres, Midwest City, and Yukon. The village, Midwest City and Oklahoma City did not have anything in the ordinances that was found requiring additional side setbacks. The others did, and they varied, and that's all within your staff report as well. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.
I had a question. Did you say you will talk to the fire chief, or you have talked to him?
We have. We have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak on this matter? Is there anyone on the council that has anything to say?
I've just got a question, I'm sorry, I should ask you, what was the genesis behind this? Is there a new building going up, or something happening?
Essentially, it was brought to staff's attention by a council member, kind of brought it up, and then it was just kind of tossed around a little bit, and we thought about it. He's like, well, okay, we'll talk to the building inspectors, and he's like, yeah, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And with the setbacks being, or with our lots being kind of a substandard lot the way they are anyways, we felt that this would be a very kind of pro construction point stance to take.
Is that commercial and residential?
Be just R1 and R2. So just residential.
I do know there's people in Ward 2 that are purchasing properties and essentially tearing them down and upgrading the home that's being built there. And so they're larger homes, some of them 2 stories, and this benefits them not having to have the old ordinances.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
This was another tool that the ordinances and the residents can use to promote development, especially in Ward 2, because we have issues and we have a area that is ready for development, and this will allow the builders, developers, homeowners, future homeowners to allow that to happen. So I want to make sure that the city council thanks the staff and their ability, and especially the P&Z, who unanimously approved this. This is one example, I hope of many, where we can apply and change our ordinances to help our residents and increase the quality of life, not to mention the property value.
Mr. Shirey, do you have something to say?
It's on. Would this include your accessory buildings? Do they still have the 5-foot setback off of the side, on the side yard?
The accessory buildings would follow the current setbacks. They would not necessarily be involved in this, just because this is just the additional side yard setback for an additional story of a house. So that's the only time that this goes into effect.
Accessory buildings have the height restrictions anyway.
Exactly.
Well, I'm more concerned about safety, and a lot of these houses have 5 foot beside them, and they put a storage building between the house and the fence, and that stops the possibility of somebody getting into the backyard to fight fire.
With the accessory buildings, like I said, they will have to follow the current the side setback. So it's 5 foot on one side, 10 foot on the other.
Okay,
So.
thank you, that's all I need to know.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
I second it.
So what you're saying is, are you approving item B, approval of sections 1 through 3?
A and B.
Yes, A and B.
Okay. Do I have a second? Arlie, did you second it? Please cast your votes. Item C is emergency clause. Do I have a motion, or do we have a need for a motion for the emergency clause? Do we know of anybody that's building a home right now? Yes, Danielle, please, again.
Sorry for the update.
Oh, you're fine. We do have a developer that is interested in building a house currently that this would affect them and being able to move forward. So
Okay.
yes, we do.
So do I have a motion for the emergency section?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is also a public hearing. It's discussion, consideration, and comments concerning the fiscal year 2019 budget for the general fund, miscellaneous other funds, and various trusts. I have something I want to say, and then I will, at that time, ask for public input, and then council input, and then I will call for a motion after that. But like our city manager has spoken about previously, we have been challenged over the last few months, and so this budget is not necessarily what the council would wish to have received or how we would have received it. But in the midst of interviewing and hiring a new city manager, we had the assistant city manager resign from being the interim city manager for health reasons. Our next acting city manager, who was our finance director, had workplace accusations that brought against him. He was suspended and investigated, ultimately forcing us, like she said, to have 3 acting city managers between our city manager that resigned and our now city manager. Having our finance director suspended meant that our city finances have not been updated of this year, and no revenue or expenses have been kept up to date. Most recently, like she mentioned, this Friday, our city clerk unexpectedly and abruptly resigned and vacated the finance department, leaving it vacant. We will be hiring, as she mentioned, Crawford and Associates to help us get all of this up to date and our finance department set up properly. In addition to this, just so you know, there has been a whole lot of activity going on around here. There have been several different investigations in various departments that has led to people departing the organization of the city of Bethany as employees. There have been department heads that have been suspended pending investigations, appointing new acting directors of those positions. So needless to say, there have been a lot of activities. As a result, we have a budget, like I said, that is not as the council would want. In a perfect world, we should have been having budget workshops and meetings to get a budget ready that the council would be satisfied with. Honestly, personally, I'm surprised that our new city manager and remaining staff was able to even get something to present to us as a council. I believe this budget needs to be passed with the addition of a special called meeting date being set so that we can go over and possibly amend the 2019 budget. With this said, let me open up this public hearing. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to address anything regarding the budget, then I'll open up for council members' questions and comments. Is there anyone here that would like to address the budget from the public? Is there anyone on the council that would like to comment on this budget and where we are right now?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank Janet for the hard work she's done and staff. It has been a high mountain to climb, and it still is. But thank you for the work you've done.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to comment that no budget is perfect when you adopt it. They're adjusted throughout the year. Income changes, needs change. And so anything that we adopt tonight is a guideline for what our budget is going to be for the coming year. It's not something that we say, well, it's not in the budget, we can't do it. I don't know, care how badly we need it. And so it's like your personal life. You adjust it, you make it work, and you set priorities. And we need the budget filed so we're not shutting down the city on July 1. Simple as that.
Is there a best date next week that council could get together so that I can call a special meeting to be able to look into this budget and amend this budget after this vote?
Will we have any new information? Will Crawford be helping us at that time? Will we be able to will answers be, or questions be answered if we met again next week?
I'm not sure that, that they would, because it doesn't give adequate time frame for Crawford to get in the middle of this. And, you know, that is my only concern, is that in a week or so, we're not going to have the information or the accounts caught up during that time. I'm not sure exactly how long it will take, but I anticipate that during the first quarter of this next fiscal year, which is July, August, and September, during that time frame, we will be able to go through and adjust this budget to what the council would like for it to actually end up being. But you're right. I mean, we do have to adopt something. I have asked for the changes that I have submitted here for you all to consider, because we can approve a budget, but if it doesn't give us, and me particularly, what I need to move forward this organization during the time that we're revising the budget, then my hands are really tied. You know, whenever the council hired me, I came with a lot of vision and enthusiasm and excitement for being here, and I already have implemented plans for moving forward and have asked for some personnel to be added to help us to secure the vision and the goals that I'm pretty sure that the council share with me. And in the midst of the financial difficulties that we find ourselves in, not because of lack of funding per se, but because of lack of personnel to keep up and let us know, how we're progressing through our fund balances, how we're doing in our finances, because of those things that are hindering us now, I don't want to see our progress thwarted as well. So I would ask, that the council approve the extra positions that I have asked for, so we can continue moving forward. I'm sitting here looking at my staff, and I am so appreciative of their support. And I work with them every day, and I am seeing their dedication to this city and their desire to see us become better than what we are. And as our mayor says, the best is yet to come. The best is ahead. And I truly believe that. And so what my wish is that we continue moving forward, and that our people see that we're moving forward, and that we are energized with the belief that council has in my leadership, that I am transparent, that I am going to be perfectly honest with you, that I will tell you where we are, that you will not have to wonder, that I am communicating with you, and that you can be assured that this budget will be what you want it to be going forward.
A question on the new positions. I know you have a bunch of hiring to do to backfill for
Yes.
people that are no longer going to be here. And there are some positions that are being eliminated. But would the new hires all need to be immediate, or could they be phased in after the quarter, when you know what the budget is?
Well, I already know what our budget spending is. That's no surprise to me. I've looked at the numbers for the salary amounts, and I have allocated funding from reducing some salaries, taking away some salaries, and then also, honestly, the positions that are no longer here, I will not have to hire at that high level that we have had. And so I know that I have the money available, and honestly, the financial positions are not something that I can hire quickly. I need to make sure that we're getting the right personnel in, and that, in my opinion, it will take at least 3 months, if not 5 or 6, to actually find who we want there. So I feel that we could trade the positions that I'm asking for, and do those immediately, knowing that we'll be able to hire, 4 to 6 months from now on the financial side.
Would you be willing to, with the exception of the chief of the staff, willing to, the follow-up with Councilmember Harris, willing to hire these other ones once we actually hammer out the budgets and we see what the bottom lines are?
I don't know what other ones, it's just one, isn't there?
No, it's special projects, external affairs directors, community development admin assistant, public works admin assistant, meter reader, building custodian.
Okay, those, the Public Works Admin Assistant has been requested to help out the one admin person that we have in Public Works. She has no relief and no backup, And so the acting Public Works Director has asked me to hire a part-time person so that they can provide some relief for that individual. The Community Development Admin Assistant would be working with Danielle and Amanda. And as you see in our council meetings, they are always at the podium presenting information on many, many things that they are working on. And they are at such a high level of hands-on with everything that they have requested that I provide an admin person who can be there to help with catching up the paperwork, but also there'll be some other things that person can do as well. The meter reader and custodian, I have been looking into the utility department. We have 2 meter readers there that usually are pretty stretched out in what they're doing also. But we could use a part-time meter reader, but this building has no custodian. We have nobody that locks it up. We have nobody that takes care of it. We have a cleaning service that comes in twice a week. And other than that, nobody is minding the store. So those are 3 positions that I feel are very necessary, and they're not high-level professional positions so that it would, that we're waiting to find the right person. We need those persons to help the staff in doing their jobs. As far as the Special Projects External Affairs, this is a position that I am asking the council to allow me to create that will work with BETA. We also need someone that will work with the Chamber of Commerce. We have a need for Bethany to be out in the public eye. And I have an individual that I believe will serve very, very well in this position, and that we will actually be able to move forward on our TIF districts, on bringing retail development into our city, bringing new restaurants. And this person has a track record that we can look at that I'll be happy to, that I have discussed with many of you already. And so I am not bringing in someone who's an unknown entity, but someone who has a record that we can look at of success. And I think that's exactly what we need. If we're going to invest the dollars into that position, then we want production, we want efficiency, and we want results. And the last position that I'll address here is the Chief of Staff position. When I came into this organization, we had Assistant City Manager position, at least one of those in the organization. And honestly, that position as Assistant City Manager is very difficult for someone to work alongside of me when they have departmental responsibilities. If they're an HR director or a purchasing agent or any of the various things that are required for this person to do their job, whenever they have to assist me as a city manager, it doesn't allow them the time to do their job as a department head as they should be, because they're always getting pulled into meetings with me. And because of that, I talked to several council members and expressed my concern that the departments were not being served as well as they needed to be because of that title, Assistant City Manager. And I talked to our city attorney, David Davis, and he shared my concern as well and said, I have been recommending for years that the city manager have a chief of staff, someone who is not weighted down by department issues and responsibilities, but someone who can be there and assist you as you are doing things and you're setting the course for how things should go. Then you're moving on to something else, and that person can still make sure that the organization is moving like you want it to be, and there's constant interaction. So these 2 positions, the Chief of Staff and the Special Projects position, are very important to me for moving our organization forward. I keep saying that, but it's true. If you don't have the right people doing the right job, you will not get the right outcome.
I appreciate our city manager presenting to council the desire for new hires and not just us finding out about it after the fact at astronomical rates. And so for that, I do appreciate this approach. And I agree that the citizens of Bethany have been for decades wanting to move forward. And right now we are severely understaffed. And so not hiring these people, I think, would be not just making us stand still, it would be taking us backwards, in my opinion. So,
Mr. Mayor, what I was getting at with one employee, what I meant is the direct hire she wants are more than paid for with the cuts. It's a revenue positive.
Correct.
At worst. And then if you add the others, it's adding one higher level employee, basically, dollar-wise.
Mr. Mayor,
personnel-wise.
correct. Mr.
I'd
Palmer.
like to make some comments. I think this has been a difficult process leading up to this point for a lot of reasons, but normally cities plan their budgets and begin the process in January before the July 1st deadline. And normally there's an opportunity for the residents to go through those numbers and confirm and talk to their elected officials, city council, mayor, whoever, to confirm that this is what they want. And that didn't happen. And that's an issue that really rocks me to the core, to the extent that the city didn't fulfill their responsibilities for the residents. And I want to be crystal clear. This has nothing to do with Janet Smith and her ability as a city manager. I'm thankful that she's here and willing to take on the task. And I think, to her credit, she knows exactly what she's doing, and she will do a great job. And I have every confidence in that. My concern is that this never happens again, because in the way we operate Bethany is the way we treat our residents and the way we provide services for the residents. And I take that responsibility very, very seriously. And if the city cannot meet those responsibilities and obligations, then we need to make an active effort to change what we have. And I think it's very apparent. I'm not giving you my opinion. I think I'm giving you my objective observation. And if you need any more information, I'll be happy to talk with you. But this is where we are right now. And this is not a pleasant place to be if you're on the horseshoe, because you have responsibilities and obligations, and you don't want to let your residents down. And I feel like we have. And so I want to make a note of that, and I also want to confirm that we have to do this now, because we have a deadline by the state to submit a budget. So whatever we submit, that is provided to the state per the applicable law, and then we can amend and add whatever we need to that budget after we've submitted that deadline. And those are guidelines, like Dr. Arlita, Dr. Harris mentioned. Those are things that we look at and shoot for based upon estimated revenue and things that come into our budget. So that's why we're doing this now. That's why we're not going to have a meeting next week to propose the budget, because we're under a legal obligation at this point. I want to make sure that's.
I think everybody knows that we've been working extremely hard to try to build a team so that we can move our city forward. And I do fully believe, even if nobody else does believe, I believe our greatest days are ahead of us, and we've been busting our tail to make it happen. We've built a team on the horseshoe that doesn't always see eye to eye, but we try to move forward. The city manager that we have now is actually trying to build a team that is competent and able to make decisions and do their jobs to move the city forward according to what the council suggests and the direction that we give them, because we get our direction from the citizens. And that's the way this thing's supposed to be set up. And finally, personally, I believe we're starting to get there. The reason why Mr. Palmer would share what he just shared is because we've committed to try to, at our best ability, to be transparent as possible in a world that we all know tends to try to not be that transparent. And it's not very comfortable when you have to sit up here and say, you know what, it's not easy right now. People are jumping ship like crazy. but we're going to get there. We're going to get the right people on the team, and we're going to make this city the best city on the planet, because that's what we promised and that's what I believe. And I fully believe we're going to get there, but it's not going to be easy. And we all knew that it was going to get uglier before it got prettier. That's just the way it is. And so now this is where we are, and the staff that we have that are fully committed and engaged are going to thrive, because they're finally going to get an opportunity to move forward and shine and show the citizens what they're capable of doing. And I'm really excited about that. But for one, I would not want to see any of these hires not be hired, because I think, like I said, it's not causing us to pause. It will cause us to fall backwards. And where we are right now as a city, we need to have the boldness and the courage to move forward with faith, and I believe that's what we're trying to do here. And so with that,
Comments, if that's okay?
okay, hold it though, because we really are on a timeline, and I'm going to start putting a limit to the length of comments.
Well, I don't know if that's applicable, but I'm almost done, if you'll let me finish. There are a couple items that I think need to be removed from the current budget. One is the issue related to the funding of the Chamber of Commerce. I think that $20,000 does not need to be included in the current budget. I don't know how you do that at this point in time, but there are other items that need to be added and amended that were part of the previous budget that should be included, and I think we can do that, and I'm satisfied that that is something that can be done after the fact. By passing this, we can add that, because the money has already been previously allocated in another budget item, so I think we're good to go. It's just, I want everybody to understand that we have a process and a solution, and I think it's working. It's just not what I expected, and hopefully this will never happen again.
Well, you've said that before, and like I just said, that's exactly what we're striving for. And so that's exactly the way it's not supposed to happen. It's happened 2 years in a row. Last year, it was crammed down our throat with a process that no one on this staff had ever seen before. And this year, we decided it wasn't going to happen that way. And we were right on track until the wheels fell off. And that it will not happen again. So we don't have to keep repeating that. I don't understand, though, personally, how we can pull things from the budget right now, approve the budget, and then amend it. Personally, my mind just doesn't think that way. I'm looking at possibly approving this budget, and then over the next 3 months, like the city manager said, looking into the things that may need to be pulled or may need to be added and the things we need to do. If not, we're sitting here amending a budget right here in front of everybody before we vote on it, which should have been done for the last 6 months.
No disagreement here from my perspective. I just want to make note that I don't think that the chamber should be funded in this budget or the amended budget. So with that in mind, I think I've made my point.
Just you're talking about the extra, the special project.
I'm talking about the $20,000 that we allocated for last year. It doesn't need to be renewed. So I think I've said my piece. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're
And
welcome.
Isn't that agreement renewable July 1st or something? Okay.
It expires June 30.
That's what I
It's a
thought.
one-year agreement, July 1 to June 30.
So that does need to be agreed upon tonight, not in the amended.
It is allocated currently in the BETA fund budget as a $20,000 allocation to the Northwest Chamber of Commerce. So it is allocated in there, and if you do approve the budget tonight.
So does that take $20,000 out of the BETA budget then? Because that has a domino effect. Should we listen to one of the members of the BETA give their input on the chamber's involvement?
Could I make a comment here? Last year, when we approved this one-year agreement, it was to use the hotel motel tax money. And the hotel motel tax money is somewhere, so it needs to be in that same account.
It is, it's currently indicated in the BETA budget, and I think it's about $67,000 in a year, and that is allocated to the BETA fund.
So that $20,000 was to come from hotel motel.
Okay.
And that was part of the That was part of the resolution because I remember making it.
Gilbert, is that how you remember it, that the hotel motel tax, that portion goes to BETA to help you with your budget? Yeah, Bethany Economic Development Authority.
The understanding that I had on the matter was that
Lift that up a little bit, thank you.
getting back with Mr. Shirey here, my understanding of the contract was that the city manager had the primary relationship with the chamber, and the chamber and the BEDA were to work together on certain projects. And we were not, BEDA was not aware that this provision was in there until about 3 months ago. So the budget, as you look at it in your thing, has a $20,000 obligation, if you will, on the expenditure side. As to whether it came from the $67,000 or $65,000 or from the general revenues to BEDA, I have no idea.
And it really is, it's just designated as 20,000, and it's
That's
just
correct.
part of that budget, so.
That's right. It's not specifically tied to an origin that I'm aware of.
It was when we made the motion.
Okay.
And hotel motel tax monies are supposed to be used for tourism.
Tourism.
And so
Right.
Right.
wherever tourism is promoted, it needs to be tied.
I think Dr. Harris's understanding is correct.
And Jill is here with the chamber. Jill, did you have something that you'd like to say?
In the spirit of transparency, as we've all got, I have
Introduce yourself.
Thank you.
Sure. I was planning, I knew you had the budget discussion this evening, so I wasn't necessarily planning to speak other than at the end when you had comments from the public. But per our agreement last year, it said that the chamber was to present a report to you before the end of the year. And as this is the last council meeting of the year, I did want to give it to you. It does include the full financials that shows the $20,000 and how that was spent. Every bit of it, and it was all invested in promoting Bethany and activities tied to that. Over the course of the year, we developed a visitbethanyok.org website. And as Councilman Moore mentioned, I am Jill McCartney. I'm the president and CEO of the chamber. Over the course of the year, we developed a visitbethanyok.org website as well as a Facebook page. The website includes Shop Bethany, which lists every store that a person could, that a visitor would shop in Bethany, and it has links to their website or Facebook page. It has a Dine Bethany page that has every restaurant in Bethany and a link to their website or Facebook page. It has information about different activities and events. Along the way, we have promoted the Visit Bethany site as well as the 23rd District site. Created a Facebook page there. Have worked diligently with a group of outstanding volunteers as well as some of the city staff on developing the 23rd District. Have got plans for the future with the walking tours. That got cited out and priced, and it's ready to roll in the first quarter of the next fiscal year, if things move forward. We have been able to work with a lot of businesses in Bethany that are that see themselves as too small to join or pay dues into the chamber. And before this agreement, we did need to focus our efforts on our chamber members. They're the ones that pay the dues, and they're the ones that we needed to work for. Having this contract allowed us to work with Bethany in a more holistic way. I personally have dedicated more than 250 hours of time to promoting Bethany over the last year. It's where I grew up, and it is something that I hold near and dear. I also recently have brought on new staff that also grew up in Bethany and lives in Bethany. And, you know, part of the commitment to her and the way that we fund that is, you know, by our revenue. The chamber, I have not had a raise this year. This money did not go to pay me personally a penny. And I have really enjoyed working with you. I know that the city manager has a vision for where she wants to take things, and whatever the outcome, we look forward to moving forward and promoting Bethany in the future. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Have you started your planning for next year and made solid plans for the next fiscal year with taking this into consideration, what the city of Bethany allots you?
Actually, the contract is a 1 year at a time contract, and things have been quite shaky over the last year. I was not sure who I was to present ideas or plans to, who would approve it, and how things were moving forward. If you guys decide that there is no budget, we will walk away from any of the projects that we were involved with, because there will be other people that will handle that. This is still our community, and we will still be working here actively, but the degree of devotion that we have shown to the city will be different.
That sounds like a threat.
No, sir, it's not.
We pay you a lot of money outside of this $20,000. I'm not against this, but that sounds like a threat. I mean,
Councilman Moore, no, it's not. What I'm saying is that I haven't committed funds for the next year. That was the question, and I have had to set my mindset in that I might need to I've invested my heart in this, and I may need to walk away from it. And that's a hard thing to look at, but I understand that there are people that are just against it. And so if I need to walk away, I've had to prepare myself that I can do that.
I'm not against you. Don't
And
think
that is, and I wasn't saying it was you, but I just have been working to prepare myself that if you guys decide that I need to walk away, then I need to walk away.
I am personally interested to see how successful this agreement can be in light of a new economic development hire on our city staff, because they would be working right alongside the chamber, the community development, and all of us. So I'm curious to see personally how
someone that has been
successful.
successful at doing it.
Yes.
I think it could be a good relationship, you know, for us to continue with the chamber. Obviously, there has been a lot of effort that has been put into the year, and I know you all can't see this, but this is a very thick booklet of things that Jill has planned and conducted, came through with, and the city benefited from it. I'd like to see this relationship continue this year, working alongside our special projects and external affairs position. I think that it could really move Bethany forward in many, many ways and create new avenues for our success.
And I think that they won't just add to each other, I think they could possibly multiply off each other.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, my concern is the duplication of effort. If we have a on-staff individual who will do a lot of what was done by the chamber last year, that's something that I'm concerned about. I have every faith in the city manager's hire and allow that to happen. I think that they can work together, but to the extent that the city would be required to pay $29,000 for the chamber's activities when we have a full staff individual who can do the same thing, I think that's something to consider. I'm not opposed to the relationship with the Northwest Chamber. I'm just opposed to the specific amount that we outlay for those services. So if there's a way to alter the contract somehow and the parties can work together, and maybe we don't pay as much, that's something to consider. And to be honest, in looking at this presentation, I was unaware that there was a payment of supplemental expenditures to the extent of $9,300 for activities outside of the budgeted $20,000. So, you know, that's, we don't write blank checks in the city of Bethany, and I think that if we have a working relationship, I appreciate that, but I think that there's something that we can do differently to get to the same way and multiply the effort. So that's my concern. It's not anything other than that, and no person should look or read into anything other than that, so.
Then what you're saying.
May I address that $9,300? Just so that anyone watching or anyone
Yes.
that doesn't have the paperwork doesn't know. We did a Bethany Restaurant Week in February, and $5,000 of that dollars went to pay for the promotional campaign that is detailed in here with the Oklahoma Gazette. It went to them directly, in addition to additional funds that came out of the $20,000. The contract did specify that, if you look on the back, the supplemental funds to execute programs, because for several years we had planned programs and never had the funding to actually buy the advertising. And so this provided that there would be funding for that. $4,300 bought a half-page ad in the Oklahoma State Travel and Tourism Guide. The state of Oklahoma sets the pricing for that. We didn't mark it up a penny. It's what it cost, and to be on the state platform and to be promoting tourism is, that's what we had to pay to play in the game. It didn't go to the chamber, it went to promoting Bethany directly.
Mr. Mayor, can I address that?
Travel and Tourism Guide.
I think she just addressed it and
Well-
answered it.
Mr. Mayor, in the interest of moving things along, I'd make a motion that
Okay,
we
wait.
accept.
Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, Mr. Moore.
Just
I'll
one
call
thing.
for the motion whenever I know everybody's had their say.
Item
With all-
7 addresses what I think you're trying to address, and I didn't see that until now, and in our world, in your world, there's, you know, there's prorating and then there's short rating, and this is a prorated contract, so anytime if 5 people aren't happy, it's prorated cancel. We can prorate cancel during the year on item 7. So 2 months in, 2/12 is what you pay. 3 months in, you pay a quarter. You know, so it's not, we're not tied to it for a year. We are contractually, but there's early termination prorated on a monthly basis. So we're not tied to it. It's, you know, it's prorated.
What was your
Mr. Mayor, may I-
follow-up comment?
Thank you. To address Ms. McCartney's comment, I didn't know that that was being expended, and that's what concerns me. And I know that there's some discretion related to the city manager, but I was under the impression that that was $20,000 given the programs that would be provided. So that's what I'm concerned about. And then related to Mr. Moore's, Councilman Moore's comment related to the prorated contract, I think if we have an on-staff individual who can make the call to the Oklahoma State Travel Guide and set up Bethany Restaurant Week, we're paying for that already. We will pay for that. So I don't want to duplicate the effort and waste the money for the residents. That's my primary
But
concern.
you do see that the city employee is not actually a member of the chamber or working 100% of the time as a chamber, and so they, potentially, I would see them working very well together, hopefully, because the chamber's reaching areas that they're not going to be reaching because there are other activities they're going to be involved in, not just chamber activities. And so
I
I
understand
don't see
that.
that just being doubling down on the
Well,
deal.
and I appreciate that, but the fact is, it's not named the Bethany Chamber of Commerce, it's named the Northwest Chamber of Commerce. So, my concern is the allocation of funds for the services provided. If we have a city employee on staff that can do half of what the Northwest Chamber did, and we allocate funds for the remainder, I'm fine with that. I just don't think that this was a good idea, and I think we have a better alternative, and we need to implement that in some fashion or form.
I do have a question also.
Okay.
On the Bethany Restaurant Week, we have participating restaurants. What did the restaurants have to do to participate? Because I noticed not all of our Bethany restaurants are on there.
Yes, the restaurants that participated had to agree to participate. And in doing so, they didn't have to pay a penny. They agreed to donate a portion of their funds on designated days to the Children's Center Rehabilitation Hospital in Bethany. And they agreed to help us in the promotional efforts by sharing photos with us of their food, by being available, by having people able to do sponsorships. I would say sponsorship is another way that the chamber can come into play, in that a city employee cannot really solicit funds for different projects, getting support of that. And as we move forward, this year, everything was pretty much just funded as seed money from the council, with the thought that after people see how it works, it makes it possible to get sponsorships from the private sector to partner with it. But it's very difficult for city employees to actually solicit funds. In fact, it may be illegal.
As we move forward, as we're looking at how this relationship could come about, last year it appeared to be that sort of the contract was that the chamber would come under the authority of the BETA to do things in a certain way. It could have been interpreted that way. I would like to see, if we do continue this, if it is at a lesser rate, rather than the 20, if we do 10, if we're moving this forward, I think that the chamber needs to be outside of BETA. They need to be working together cooperatively, but the chamber and Jill should not feel that she's subordinate to the BETA group. And so I'd like to submit that to the council.
And I would say as well, Janet and I met last week, and I really appreciate her vision for the city. I appreciate accountability and transparency, and that's why I wanted to make sure you had this in accordance with our agreement. I get it that the agreement is 1 year at a time and that it could go away at any moment, and that we're all working through what this means. I have a lot of different things that I'm keeping going, and Bethany is really important to me personally. I want to see it succeed. So if Bethany succeeding means that, there is a decision to go a different way, I want what's best for Bethany.
Thank you. Mr. Shirey, did you have something to say?
Well, if I could say something before we vote on this,
This budget, item
we
4.
could vote on this budget. I would like to reassure the people of Bethany that services will not change. It will go on just like they are at the present time. And we will have to go back and have one of these, what I call a budget workshop, is what we've been having right here. And you will have to realize that it takes us more than 30 minutes to do this. And we're going to have to rework this whole situation, because we've kind of fell in, as the saying goes, the wheels came off or whatever, that we didn't anticipate. We started back in February. I remember starting in February on this budget, and then after that, it didn't seem to progress very well because we had so many different problems come up. But I can tell you the city of Bethany will just be just as well protected by our police and our fire You will receive the services that you're going to receive, that you received last year. You'll have fresh drinking water. You will have daily or twice a week garbage pickup until we get this budget taken care of. And Bethany will not change. It will be the same. But I will also remind you that as long as I've been on this council, I have never seen a budget that started in that came out like it did. There was always a change on something.
Sure.
Thank you. Item 4, thank you, Jill. Item 4, do I have a motion for approval of resolution number 1507, adopting the fiscal year 2019 budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 5 is consideration and possible approval of First Amendment to an ambulance service contract between the City of Bethany and CLV Enterprises, DBA Samaritan EMS pertaining to jail incarceration fees. Do I have a motion or any questions?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 6 is consideration and possible approval of temporarily adding Councilmember Curtis Moore as a third authorized signature to our bank accounts. Do I have a motion?
Do we have an explanation?
I'll explain it. I'm sorry, but in the past, they have my stamp for signatures for payroll and bills and stuff of that nature. Then we discovered that there were times where the city clerk was not available, and so whether payroll or bills needed a secondary signature, and so Vice Mayor Knapp is signed to be able to be that secondary signature. He's going on vacation, and then as a result of not having a city clerk right now, we're going to need to pay the employees, because I think they would probably appreciate that before he gets back from vacation, and so we need an additional temporarily having another council member to sign.
Anybody has a problem with that, I won't be insulted. It's just, I happen to be a fiduciary, I'm bonded. I mean, I have everything with the state, and I'm either right down the street or I'm right here usually. So that's the only reason.
That's why Mr. Moore was asked, because he was actually sitting in the conference room when this came up, and office is very close, so that's the reason why he was.
So when we say temporary, you gotta put a time on it?
Don't really have to.
Yeah, you don't really have to. It's just an additional person that can sign in case somebody's not available, so you can, because all checks require 2 signatures.
I have a question. Can employees sign?
Their own.
Well, the payroll clerk, the reason I didn't choose him is because he's writing the checks
Right.
and he'd be signing. I think that's a problem, just in case. So other than that, I don't really have anyone that is involved in that payroll process or the fiduciary process. And that's why I thought it would be better for the oversight to be a council member rather than a staff person. And I do not want to sign any checks
No,
either.
but at the point that we have a director of finance, a city clerk, those people do sign.
They do, but at this point, without a city clerk.
Right.
And I have not made an appointment in the interim for that position. So again, we're really at a loss for who that we could have to sign as an employee signing.
So it could be the police chief, it could be,
It could be.
I mean, it could be any number of people.
It could be anyone that the council
Okay.
designates, and then the proper safety protocols would be put into place for that.
If there's
you.
another fiduciary here that would like it, please take it. The only reason I say that is, I would have to have some information. Mr. Knapp won't be in town, he does trips this time of year, he won't be in town.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve item number 6 on the amended
I'll
agenda.
second that.
Please cast your votes. Item 7 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. No action may be taken on matters under this item. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council? Please step to the microphone and state your name and address. please.
Gilbert Carlson, 2601 North Rockwell. I'm concerned that what we just saw on the budget discussion, where we allowed a minute portion of the overall thing to become the dominant issue, this is typical of the type of division, the seeds that have been planted here. We need to get above this. We need to get beyond this. We need to look at the major items and then ferret out the problems. $20,000 is a pimple on a sea of acne when you're looking at a $15 million budget. It is shameful to waste the time of your citizens and yourselves beating a small item to death. I happened to pull a budget from a small town, and there's a notation looking forward. I'd like to read you a couple of items. By making our city government friendlier to work with, we will continue growth and development of our community. Future considerations: to treat every citizen with respect and dignity as each department within the city organization fulfills its mandate and mission, even when some of our responsibilities are not popular. I think we could take some guidance from that, and I believe the author is sitting up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening.
Hey.
Kathleen Himmler, a resident, 3125 Pinecrest Drive, as well as the city judge. I just wanted to address the council tonight to ask, I know there's been a hang-up with Laserfish and what we're going to do with that. I just want you to know, and maybe you'll consider, if we can't afford that for the entire city, consider whether that is a tool that the court absolutely needs to function. I've just kind of done a couple things that I think Stacy looked it up. Originally, when that was addressed, the cost was going to be $700 a month to handle it at the court. I know that's a lot less than the bill you're dealing with. The benefits I've noticed, and I'm like a lot of you, at first I was like, I don't want to go paperless. I like that paper, I'm old school. But after a year and a half, this is what I've noticed is better. So our ability to communicate with our police department on weekends and evenings, Stacy will take a computer home. If dispatch has a question, we can address it over the weekend. I get calls from the police department. I'm set up that we can move some of these people that get brought in from Oklahoma County Jail on the weekend. We can process them and move them because we're set up on a paperless system. I don't have to run in the office and go through, find the paper. Much faster and smoother handling of citizens on court dates and when we're dealing with them at the window. When they come to the window, all the information that a clerk needs, it doesn't matter which clerk it is, when they pull it up on the computer, it's there. They don't have to get out of their seat, walk back, and this is how it used to be. Walk back, see if you could find the file, then take the paper back and deal with that citizen. So it's a much quicker process from a customer service standpoint if you're the person coming to the window. Fewer lost files. I mean, when we have paper and you've got 20 years of paper, sometimes stuff gets lost, and that's a problem. The benefit in the courtroom, I used to sit and go through the file. My clerk can't see the paper. We have dual screens. We're both looking at the same thing. I'm generally talking to you about your tickets. She's typing like crazy. So that person processes probably, if I had to guess, 50% faster. They're in and they're out, and trust me, they're happy to be in and out. Warrants are easier to collect. They're easier to collect if you issue them properly. Right now, we're not issuing warrants because we don't have storage. We don't have any way to do that. So they're stacking up. We'll get to them, and if we have to go back to paper, we'll do it. But it's really going to be, a process. The other thing about doing warrants quickly is that your addresses and phone numbers, generally, if you've gotten them, to be honest with you, they're going to be accurate. They're going to be more accurate the quicker we get to them. The other thing that it's streamlined is there's a very short deadline once we process a ticket to report to the Department of Public Safety. Again, the no loss documents, the documents are on the computer, and you can get them they can meet those deadlines quicker, and there's fewer errors in reporting. Tell me if I'm running out of time.
You're the judge. It's kind of hard to tell you you're running out of time.
No, I'll abide by your rules. I'm in your court. Kind of the thought that I had on it was, I'm going to send my kid off to college. We've had this process, or this tool for 2 years. So I send my kid off to college, say, here's a great computer, you can keep track of everything. And then my sophomore year, I go, you know what? I can't afford that anymore. And I pull it, how successful is that kid going to be? That's kind of what we're dealing with at the court. So I just ask that when you're looking at that tool, if we can't afford it for everyone, please consider that we keep it for the court system. Mr. Palmer could probably tell you, I don't do much district court work, but I know the federal courts have gone paperless. District court, I'm not sure if they're totally paperless. Just a much cleaner process. I know that recently there was an audit done of the city, of the court. I'm telling you, we would still be digging through papers. Stacy was able, they would ask for stuff, she could click buttons and you can reproduce the paper, but she was able to answer their questions because everything was in one place. So any of the real technical stuff beyond that, you'd have to ask her. But just please consider that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Item 8 can be stricken from the agenda because it is the city attorney's report. Item 9 is the city manager's report.
I'd like to follow up with the conversation on Laserfish and just let the council know that at the last meeting where you expressed concern over regarding Laserfish, I did begin looking into ImageNet and Laserfish, and as I said before, I did briefly meet with them last week. I will be setting up a meeting in the next couple of weeks regarding it. However, I think I have pinpointed where the council's issue may be, and it is in a lack of a policy to hold on to papers for a certain amount of time. What has been happening is that as soon as we get a bill in, and this is regarding the city, I think the court is moving along very well, and everything's working fine there. You have a lot more checklists that you have to get through for accountability with Laserfish in the court system, not so much in our municipal government, unfortunately. And what we see a lot of times is when we adopt when we decide we're going to do something, we forget that you have to have policies and procedures that guide you in the way to do that. So what I believe happened is when we decided that we would go with Laserfish, it sounded all well and good, and we started getting our bills in, and we started scanning them in and uploading them to that system, and we were immediately shredding the documents, which makes a council very, very nervous because they think, wait a minute, is that legitimate? What just happened here? So as I was talking to staff today in our staff meeting, what I am going to do is set a policy in place that says we're not going to be shredding our invoices and bills and things until we've had time to reconcile those with our bank statements, making sure that all of those checks and balances are in place. And really it should take about 3 months for that to happen by the time that you get a finance clerk or a city clerk, to go through the process of bank reconciliation. Within that 3 months, we will have answered the question, was it a legitimate invoice? Did the council approve the payment for that? Was the check issued? Did the check get cashed? Did it go through our bank? And has it been reconciled and taken care of on our books? And usually within 3 months, all of those questions have been answered. So I would like to submit that I think with some policies and procedures in place that the council can be comfortable with Laserfish again. And I would also like to say that, there are ways for us to share costs, and I'll be happy to share that with the council a little bit later. I am working with Stacy on some things now that we will be bringing to the council for approval, but it's premature for me to talk about those at this moment. So that was item number 1. Item number 2 is I was requested by Councilman Knapp to address the audit with Crawford and Associates that was done regarding the former city manager. And just to let the people know that we did perform an audit. This is a normal part of government. It should be a normal part of any business, that when you have someone in a position of authority, that when they leave, you always check to be sure that they did things correctly and that there was nothing hidden, there was nothing that was inadvertently missed. And so this council worked with Crawford to come in and to assist in meeting the fiduciary responsibilities that are required from council. And so there was an audit. There were some issues. There were some findings regarding the city manager, who's just prior to me, from September 2016 through January of 2018. The city manager during that time was audited, and there were some findings there. And what Crawford did was actually they asked the subordinates, department heads, employees, and even some members of the council, basically their confidence in the city manager, and if there were any concerns related to the way that things, were generated from the top. There were a few issues that were noted. There were some detailed findings, and basically it was some expenses that the city bore first, that the city manager allowed the city to fund, and then there were some things that were not paid back in a timely fashion. Regarding some products that the city purchased, some iPads and computers and things of that nature. And so what was found here was that there was a very slow repayment process, and it took 6 months at times to get things set up. And as a city manager, I'm looking at this knowing this is not the way that we do business. The city cannot give funds to employees and then expect the employees to pay them back. That's not done. And Crawford did say that there was an accounts receivable balance of somewhere over $2,000, but it was withheld from his final check. He did receive a copy of this. I did send it to him. And there were some duplication of payments that happened regarding mileage reimbursements and car allowance. But all of those things have been rectified now, and the city is now satisfied. This audit has been done. Crawford has looked at everything and said that the books are clear now at this point. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 10 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals, and tonight we'll start down with Councilmember Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would appreciate and thank Mr. Carlson for his comments regarding our meeting tonight. I think that's well taken by me, and if I was out of line in any way, I apologize. That's a concern for me, and I think I have an opportunity to express that, which is exactly what I did. So with that in mind, I take your Mr. Carlson's comments to heart, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for the open discussion related to what we talked about tonight. I'm optimistic as to where we go and what we do from here, and I think we're getting there. I think we have a great opportunity, and I'm thankful that we have Janet Smith at the helm to lead us through this. My captain, oh captain, or however you want to say that, we're good to go. And, you know, in the words, if I'm going to go with the analogy, I think we should apply carpe diem and get after it. Thank you.
Arlita?
I do want to announce that the roads in Kenya are much worse than any street we have. So, just keep it relative. I, for one, love laserfish, and I will go out fighting if anyone tries to take it away, because I use it a lot. So I appreciate it from the financial standpoint and looking up records and so forth. We did a tour of the new library tonight. I'm so excited. And so it's looking great. It's beautiful and functional and everything we wanted it to be. So I'm anxiously awaiting the chance to grand open it. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Todd?
I have multiple items, but I'll try to make it short. I talked to 3 different council people before our meeting tonight, and those 3 are in the same boat as myself. Can't figure out how to work laserfish. Now, yeah, well, I have for the last several months, when we'd get our packet, I would go through the packet, and those questions that I would have, I would write them down, and I'd go see Susan Tate, and she would walk me through it. And every time she, oh, no, not this way. They've changed that, and we're going to do it this way now. I'm a neophyte. I mean, I admit it. And so I'm going to suggest whoever is doing this, on the number there, just be able to click on that number and it pops up. I'm told that that's relatively easy to do. Don't make it complicated for an old man. Admittedly, I don't follow these 14 steps to get to, okay. So if we can make just click and then we're there, okay, I'm good with that. Long before our current city manager came here, last year's budget, we appropriated X number of dollars to have the city hall updated to the ADA standards. Has there been any movement at all that we know of?
Yes, there has. Actually, that was one of the things that kept me busy last week, was a meeting regarding our ADA improvements. And the mayor was involved in that meeting as well, but really in light of, I'll refer to what Gilbert was saying earlier, you know, we need to make our city hall a place that welcomes people when they come in. And that was really my intention whenever I was working with the architects. And some other things had been done prior to me getting here, and quite honestly, they were not good enough. They didn't look good enough. We need to be aesthetically pleasing as we're making these improvements. And so I kind of threw out a couple of things and said, hey, here are my ideas, and bring those back. And so we are working on those. We have prioritized. There are probably 5 different things. We've got sidewalks into the building that will take a priority, because getting people from the parking lot into the front of the building is important. Second thing will be the doors coming into the building, and we actually had some work on that done today. Thanks to Stacy and to Linda, and our front door should be opening now. So we're going to make some improvements there. But, you know, my vision is to see a lot of glass, you know, clear. It welcomes you. It pulls you into the building. So in addition to the nicer doors that we'll have, we're also looking at the stairwell, that it is actually 6 inches between each one of those bars. It's only supposed to be 4. Otherwise, little children can get hurt. So we're going to have to add glass, and what we're looking at are glass panels that will come alongside of the stairwell all the way to the top. and that will give some protection. But I said I needed it frosted glass, and I need some etching in there and some design. So, yes, to answer your question, we're working on that, and I'm hopeful that within the next couple of months, you see some changes.
Thank you. Then the last item was, I haven't heard a thing about 4th of July. Do we have anything going to happen in the city park?
We do. We have a very small committee trying to form a larger committee, but as you know, everybody wants something done, but nobody wants to participate in making it happen. Justin Peck is chairing the Freedom Festival Committee and has been working very hard trying to make some things happen. And I helped him recruit Randy Lunstra to also help pull off the Freedom Festival. And I do know that with our new hire, he has, as far as, I don't forget what you called him.
Special projects.
Special ops project
Special
guy,
projects.
I don't know. He has a lot of experience with events of the large nature, and so I believe that with his help, they will be successful. And I don't know what this year will look like, but it will once again become one of the largest, most exciting family-friendly events on the 4th of July.
Thank you, sir.
Do people line up along 39th Street at 10 a.m. on the 4th for a parade?
For the parade, we will definitely have the parade.
Good, okay.
Yeah,
And the fireworks.
Public Works is very involved right now getting the parade together. And that is, I have to say, one of the reasons why we did request that the admin assistant needs some help, because this time of the year is very, very busy, but otherwise as well.
Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Jill McCartney for her efforts. You're doing a good job. We're all in a tough position, but you're doing good. And Janet's doing just gangbusters work. And I joined the mayor. If you look in the middle of a 1969 hot rod rebuild, it doesn't look very good when there's no paint, no motor in it. I mean, but you have to have a vision, and the mayor has done a great job of casting a vision. And you have to see that vision. There's only maybe one or two people here been here longer than I have. And Bethany is poised to be greater than it's ever been, and I truly believe that. You have to have a little faith and a lot of hard work, and we'll get there. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Mr. Herron?
I have nothing tonight.
Mr. McCutcheon?
I do have one question. Will the mayor be throwing candy during the 4th of July parade this year? That's all I have to ask.
I promise to do my very best to not leave all my candy in the trunk of my car as I start the parade. Because my kids that were running beside me handing out flyers of what Bethany had going on didn't appreciate the things being said to them from the people not getting candy, but instead of flyers. So yes, I will try my very best. Mr. Shirey?
I'd like to address the statements made by the city's court judge. It's absolutely necessary for her to have an electronic system over there. I visited the court last week, and they had an extreme lot of difficulty in communicating back and forth, and it lasted for quite a long time. And I think that most everybody there, I mean, if you had a court date at 8 o'clock and you didn't get out till 2, that was a little bit heavy. And I think anything that we can do to accelerate this, we need to do it. And it's part of the services that we should lend to not necessarily the people in the city of Bethany, because there's a lot of people from outside the city of Bethany that come, and we don't want to have a bad image of what's outside of our city. And will the parade location go from the college where we usually assemble and go into the park? And go down Rockwell, and will it go down 36th Street?
I believe so. Is the
It'll be the same as it always has.
Same as it always has. Okay. And Mrs. Harris said that the roads were worse in Kenya than they were here. I think they probably should be, because I believe we are a first world country, and we can afford to have Rockwell, and we can afford to have 23rd Street smooth. And I think we should start together on that, and that's part of our budget for next year. We're going to do that. But, you know, the flailing that we did tonight up here is only an indication of what we're going to have to be doing in the next 3 months. And I think it probably within a week is not enough time to have this together. I think it's going to take a lot of work on the budget, even though things are not going to change. It's just going to be, we're going to have a better blueprint of where we're going. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knapp?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank everybody that's here tonight, although we have a lot of staff members. Thank you for your help, and thank you, Janet, for your work to pull a budget together. It's not the final product, but you've made a lot of great strides, and I know you didn't do it by yourself. So thanks, everybody. Mayor, I just wanted to go back and thank you for when I mentioned that I didn't receive a copy of that audit. Thanks for making it available for everybody. And I did have some concerns about it, so that's why I asked for status report. And Linda, thank you for filling in to take minutes tonight. I appreciate that you could be here. And this Saturday, we can't forget, everybody should come out to 23rd Summer Cinema and watch. We're going to show The Greatest Showman on the lawn at Bethany Behavioral Hospital on 23rd. I think we've got a great lineup of things. The fun starts at 6 o'clock for families with inflatables and balloon animals and let's see, a whole bunch of other stuff. Some face painting, maybe some fun little critters that everybody.
Did you say food trucks?
And food trucks.
Food trucks,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Mini gourmet
so,
donuts, I believe.
I enjoyed putting a little video together with the mayor just to promote that, and we were kind of silly, but
I was normal. You were.
Yeah.
really silly.
But it's going to be a great time. Anybody that can come, please do. I know that we're just rolling into town that afternoon, so like a lot of things, I'm not going to be much help that day. But I know it's going to be fun, and we just want everybody to see what 23rd Street can do when we all pull together. And there's more to come on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I do believe, as I said a million times, that our greatest days are ahead of us. I'll never quit believing that. And pretty much all of us has heard the words of Henry Ford that said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you are correct. It's all a mindset. It's faith. It's what moves mountains. And I truly believe the greatest book ever written, where the greatest man that ever walked the planet said all things are possible if you believe. And that's just the way I choose to operate. And so we're willing to do the hard work, willing to stick our neck out there, willing to make the hard decisions, whether it's popular or not, knowing that our greatest days are ahead of us, and I want every single one of us to experience it. Gilbert, I also would like to thank you for your comments. Being somebody who has grown up here, I am used to getting whooped all the way home from wherever I was playing to my front door by everybody's parents because of something that I did or didn't do right or something like that. And as the mayor, I am also used to getting whooped
from, getting my door. The citizens, and I love that about our community, that they let you know what they think you're doing right and what they think you're not doing so right, because everybody's passionate about Bethany, and that's what makes Bethany so great. And so I really appreciate that. Also, I have a question just that I would like to find out. I know that about a year ago, or a little over a year ago, they ran the fiber optics to connect City Hall to the courts. I don't know if that's the laserfish thing, or I don't know what all that technical stuff's above my head, but I know that they weren't connected. I don't know why they weren't connected, or what's needed to connect them, or what the pros and cons are for why it wasn't connected, and what do we get for it being connected. So that's something I'd kind of like to just be educated on next meeting or something.
Okay.
Item 11 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 3rd, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is a consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is approval of resolution number 1507, adopting the 2019 budget. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 3rd, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is approval of resolution 1507, the 2019 budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 3rd, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is approval of resolution number 1507, 2019 budget. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until July 3rd, 2018, and with that, we are adjourned. Good night.